Hello everyone. So we are here at my university and my parts came in. Yes! So we finally got the stuff that we need for the subwoofer install. I did a little bit of work on it, I guess, in the little org event that I had going on. But I'm headed back to my car right now. And as you can see, it's very dark outside. So we have all the subwoofer parts that we need. So we're gonna go out to our car and get it installed. What I'm hoping to do right now is I'm probably gonna go underneath to the ground floor because there's more lighting in there. But what I'm gonna do is run the power cable. I'm gonna run the power cable over to the trunk area. I don't think I'll get the fuse installed today, the circuit breaker, but we're gonna try to get that done. Yeah, it is pretty sunset. Very pretty, very pretty. So we got all the stuff that we need over here in my truck. We'll get down to the first floor, the ground floor, and we'll get to work. So I'll see y'all then. All right, so I also did a subwoofer grill to protect the sub because I still want to use the back trunk for like groceries and all that. So it looks like it fits. All right, so this in fact did not fit. The rubber circle was too big for the subwoofer to sit into. As expected with Scar, some of their stuff aren't really top notch, but yeah, we'll go straight to the power wiring tutorial for this. So yeah, we returned it. All right, so next step is to remove the wheel. Focusing. Yeah, so next step is to remove the wheels so we can get a good viewpoint of where these cables go. All right, and then what we're gonna do now is we're gonna remove this splash guard so we can get a better view of what we're working with down here. It's just 10mm bolts that are holding it on. So we'll go ahead and remove this. There's one over here somewhere, that one. This, and the one over there, those over there, and we'll see what we're working with, so. All right. And then once we get this splash guard removed, we can see the wiring harness that leads into the firewall and through to the interior. I'm not sure if you can see it, but that is a rubber grommet that we want to poke a hole in. So we're gonna go ahead and take a sharp knife or something else, a pair of scissors that are sharp, and we're gonna go ahead and poke a hole in that. So bear with me with 1 second. All right, so we got something sharp right here. And then what we're gonna do, we're just gonna poke into that rubber grommet as shown. Poke it that way. As you can see, someone was driving in the wrong side, so welcome to my city, man. Anyways, we're gonna go into the interior and see if we can try to locate where we poked that hole at. All right, guys, it took us a while, but we managed to get a hole through that rubber grommet. So what we're gonna do is take a piece of coat hanger and we're gonna push this inside, make sure it's going through on the other side. So once we have that poked into the rubber grommet as shown, we're going to go inside here and look for it inside. Car's kind of sideways, but as you can see, the grommet is, well, the metal piece is right there. Not sure if you can see it. There's the rubber grommet that I was talking about. That little piece right there. Sorry, this is bad recording. That's where the wire is coming through. The wire harness with this little metal coat hanger that we're going to use to pull the amp through. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hook that metal coat hanger through this, make sure it grabs with the power wire, and just pull it through on the outside. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, so sorry for the bad video quality over there, but as you can see, we have the power amp right here. So what we did, we removed the splash guard right here. We poked a hole inside the rubber grommet right here. And what that does, it has the main wiring stuff. We poked a hole in there, followed the original clips for the wiring harness up here, and then followed the wiring harness. It leads into the engine bay on this part right here. So once we feed that, it goes up to here. As you can see, the main wiring harness for the fuse and all that, ECU. And then what we're gonna do now is remove this. So we're gonna loosen up the power real quick. So it's also a good note to remove the negative as well. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. Yeah, it was pretty confusing at first. I couldn't really see where the hole was at, but you can pull the rubber grommet out a bit and see how thick it is. So, all right, so we got the negative disconnected right here. Make sure it doesn't touch any terminal. And then this is kind of an awkward spot for the wiring. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten it down and hopefully it bends. I had to take a washer out. So that's how it's connected to the power wire. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten that down. And then once we're done with that, we'll go ahead and put in the splash shield again. And then we should be all set for up here. So yeah. Also, I forgot to mention, the battery terminal nuts are a 10 millimeter. So it is a 10. And then we'll go ahead and use that and tighten it all up and see how it goes. All right, so we got everything tightened up. Got the terminal tightened up, we got the negative tightened up. If we don't have this tightened up, I'll tighten it up. Battery's connected again. As you can see, I got rid of a washer so the power wire could fit. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of dielectric grease on there. As you can see right now, I'm running open vent hood. So I'll go ahead and put some dielectric grease on there to make sure we get no battery codes. And so yeah, we're gonna go ahead and reinstall the splash guard. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna leave a little bit of slack in the engine bay for the power wire, because we still need to install the circuit breaker. And Scar's amp power wiring kit, you'd use a fuse that they give you. I'm not going that route. So what I'm gonna do is I bought a circuit breaker from AutoZone. So what this essentially does, the best way to explain it is kind of like, it's an infinity fuse. So it's rated for 100 amps. So every time it sees a power surge going on with the power wire, it will kick out like that. And there's no need to replace the fuse. So what you can do is just push it back in and it's all set. So I'll leave that for tomorrow. It's getting kind of late, I gotta go home. But yeah, we're gonna leave a little bit of slack in here in the engine bay for the power wire, just because I need to cut this and install these. So I'm probably gonna have it installed in this little area right here. Have it installed right here. Have it installed or have it duct taped that way. But yeah, I'm gonna loosen the nuts so that way I can get more freedom to move these around. But that's gonna be a job for tomorrow. But yeah, we're going with the circuit breaker instead of a fuse. And yeah, but that's pretty much it for, I guess, the first half of this install. I will show y'all the installation for the driver's side. So we already have the power wire connected to the battery. We have it running through this fender, pokes into a rubber grommet in the firewall, and now we're just going to set it right here inside the side stills. So since these are pretty loose, I can probably tuck them in from under. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, but I'll just, since I have this off, I'll go ahead and install it right here. But we're gonna do the same for the this back end. So we're gonna have the wire running from back here. It's gonna run the driver's side onto the trunk. Now I'm not gonna tuck it in all the way because I still need to cut and have it fit to where I can comfortably put the fuse inside the engine bay. So we got this panel a little bit loose, and what we did, we tucked it to where it wasn't messing with the bolt for the seatbelt. Tucked it under, pulled it through the carpet, And we're just gonna discreetly tuck it in here behind the seat, because you can lift these back seats. We're gonna do that real quick. And all we're gonna do for now is just tuck the wire with the wire harness. All right, so once we have the wire tucked in like this, what we're gonna do now is just line up the weather strip to the metal part. Then once we have it lined up, we're just gonna give it a nice little tap, and it is discreetly under the plastic. So we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing for this little part right here. All right, so we got everything tucked in, and it looks just like OEM. That was pretty much it for the first day. We were just connecting the power wire to the car and having the path for it to go back to the trunk. So we'll continue this tomorrow. I gotta go home. Parents are waiting. But yeah, that is essentially how you excuse me. But that is how you connect the power wire. So we'll go over more steps tomorrow. Peace. All right, Joe. Sorry. I was recording this at like 5:30 in the morning, and I didn't want to wake anyone up. So we're just gonna install the circuit breaker. So what it takes is an 11mm wrench to loosen up the bolts, or the nuts, my bad. So to loosen and tighten, and then one unique feature is that it has the battery and aux side, so you don't get confused. So one side's going to be leading into the battery, and another is going to be feeding to the amp, which is the aux side. So what we're going to do here is just cut the wire to where we left off some slack for it. And once we have that cut, we're going to go ahead and strip the part where we cut it at to the bare wire. And then once we have that done, we're going to go ahead and twist the wires to make sure it's all even and flat. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to crimp it onto the the O-ring terminal. So real quick, just make sure you really press down on it. I thought I pressed down on it real hard, but when I went to go pull on it, it slipped out. So you just want to make sure you press firmly down on it. I used the car subframe as leverage, so you just want to press down on it real hard. And once you do that, just make sure it doesn't move. And then you're going to do the same thing for the other side. So as you can see, it's not moving. So you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to strip the wire to bare metal, turn it around, make sure it's all flat and nice and firm. And you're just going to crimp that other side as shown. I just double checked both sides, so make sure it's fully tight on there. And again, just double check, make sure it's nice and snug on the O-ring terminals. So once you got that done, you're going to go ahead and install the circuit breaker. So really remember which side goes to the battery. It also has it on there. Make sure it says DC, so that means it's for automotive stuff. I went with a 100 amp one because I believe I'm going to be putting out max 80 amps on my setup. So we're just make sure you do your research on which amp and how much power you're going to be using for your amp and subwoofer. So as you can see, we have it installed. Again, good rule of thumb is that you want to have the circuit breaker fuse 12 to 18 inches away from the battery, so that way nothing major happens to your amp if anything were to go wrong. So as you can see, we have it on there. Everything looks fine, and yeah, so after that we're cool to go on to our next step, which is installing the amp and the subwoofer wiring and all that good jazz. So alright, so this is the part I told you I got a head start on. So what we have here is a speaker wire. So I have my wire stripping tool, and what you're going to do is you're going to strip a piece of the speaker wire off. And then what I have on my hand right now is called a posy tap. So what that is, it creates a connection between the OEM factory signal for the subwoofer and converts it into, well, it doesn't convert it, it transfers the signal to this speaker wire that we have over here. So it's essentially simple. You're just gonna twist the wire, the speaker wire, like shown, and then what you're going to do is you're going to slide that posy tap in. If you have excess wire, you can just cut a piece of it off and reattach it. So it's pretty easy. You slide it in the hole on top of the posy tap, and then you screw it in like that and make sure it's tight, nothing falls out. And again, here we have the LC2i Pro. This is the line output converter that we went. I'll go over more detail on it later on in the video. When I mean later on, I mean like in a couple seconds. So these are the inputs for the power and the ground for the LOC. So it's pretty simple. You screw it in, strip the wire, and yeah, you should be all good. Alrighty, y'all, we are back at it again. As you can see, it got clearer now. So here on campus, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut through the wiring, get all the wiring for the amp and LOC done. So what we have here is a audio control 750 watt excuse me, 750 watt mono channel subwoofer amplifier. It's a lot to say, sorry. And then this is the line output converter that we're going with. So we got the LC2i Pro, some main features, great turn on, AccuBass, so when bass rolls off on like the factory head unit, you can restore that bass. And yeah, so these are gonna go underneath my rear seats, the amp on that side, and then the LOC on this side. So we'll see how they fit right now. Put them under here like this, and then fit right there. As you can see, we already have the amp power wire already wired through the panels, so all we got to do is just run it over here. So today we're going to be setting up the amp power and ground. So the ground, I'm going to need a bolt. Grab into one of these bolts and tap into that. So we'll see which bolt we'll tap into, and we'll keep you guys updated. So I'll be back in a bit. So we got the power cable cut to the adjusted length. Again, disconnect the negative terminal because you don't want to shorten anything while you're working on this. So what we're going to do now is strip a bit of this top wire right here. I'm going to strip a bit to get it to the bare wire, and then once we have that done, we'll connect it to the amp, in which I do have an Allen wrench for that, but it's somewhere inside my book bag. So we got another set right here that we'll use. And then for the negative, I'll have to see where the bolt is, which nearby bolt I can bolt it on. Yeah, we'll go ahead and strip that wire real quick and get it connected to the amp. So
I never see my haters at the bank because they broke it up. I never see my dip because I taught my.
Alright, so we got it to bare wire. So what we're gonna do now, twist this a bit, make sure it's all nice and similar in size. And then once we have that to our liking, we're going to connect it to the amp. So we are gonna grab our amplifier. It has a signal right here. So this would be your power. You have your ground, and then you have the remote, which we won't be using. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. You just got to find the right size for the terminal. And then we will connect the power cable, slide it in there. Try to get all the strands in. I like being perfect, so we'll go ahead and put strands in like that. Then that's a perfect fitment. So what we'll do now is we'll take this Allen wrench and tighten it down. Like that. Make sure the power doesn't move. The power cable is all set, just like that. So we'll have it facing this way. Give it some wiggle room to breathe and move around. So that way, in case this does move around, we will be able to not tension it as much as to where it will probably pull out. I don't know. But yeah. Then you do the same thing for the ground cable, which I'll bring up in a bit right now. Alrighty, yo, so we have the ground cable right here. It is clear. It's also gonna be on that side, and I'm planning on bolting it onto that seatbelt bolt and nut over there. So we'll go ahead and get that out the way. So let's see what size that bolt is. It appears to be a 14. Nope, it is a 12 millimeter. Yes. All right, so we're gonna get to remove that bolt.
Diablo, pero no te apures, carrito blanco, que de aquí para adelante. Diablo, loco, no me hagas esa mierda.
Oh, shit. Okay. So, very, very important. So it is very important that you sand down the metal to bare metal when you're connecting the ground, because you're gonna get noise or bad ground connection if you just leave the paint on here. Believe it or not, this is paint. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go underneath the seat right here, and we're gonna attach the cable right there so that way it has a good signal for the ground. To get down there though, we'll have to sand that whole area and sand the bolt, the seatbelt bolt that comes with it. So we're gonna do that real quick, and we'll be with you in a bit.
Pa Ramón, si no me cansaste, diablo.
All right, so we got that little area sanded down. That looks pretty good. Looks pretty bare metal to me. What we're gonna do now is we're going to connect that ground over there. We're gonna connect this onto here. If I could get this in place. And then we'll probably have to sand down this back area of the seatbelt flange as well, just to be sure that both sides are getting good connection for the ground. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. I'll go ahead and skip to the part where we get it finished, because I'm pretty sure you're all tired of watching the hyperlapse. But I'll do that real quick and we'll get going. So we sanded this side down. That looks pretty bare metal to me. So we'll go ahead and connect this nut real quick. Connect this ash on like that. Since both sides are sanded down, that should be a good connection. That should be it for the ground. I'll go ahead and get that connected real quick and we'll move on. All right, so we got the ground cable connected. So what's left to do now is we're just gonna cut it, probably about to right here, and then we'll connect it to the amp. And that should be it for the power section. Then we'll move on to the LOC, but I'm pretty sure my buddies are coming because we usually go for a morning jog. So I'll probably leave this LOC stuff after we get back from the jog, but I'll go ahead and cut this ground wire real quick, and then we'll connect it to the amp and we should be all good. We got the ground wire cabled up and everything. We got it tightened down, and that is pretty much it for the power component of the amp. Next thing to do is to work on the LOC, which is over here. So let me get out of here real quick. So now we're gonna work on the power and ground for the LOC. I already have it connected to the LOC input. Now I just have to figure out where to plug it in on the fuse box that is inside. So the fuses I have are a 10, 15, and 20. So as you can see, this probably is the ignition, is a 10A. So we'll probably tap into that one. I have my multimeter in my backpack, so we're going to use that to see which side is a hot side and which one's the ground. Essentially, since the LOC is going to be relatively nearby, we're going to run it. We are going to flip it first. We're going to have it running this way. So this is where the LOC punches in. As you can see, we have the 12 volt and the ground. Red is the 12, black is the ground. So that is mounted on correctly. What we just have to do now is tap it into the fuse and then mount the ground to, I guess, another bolt that's nearby. Or we'll probably have to get another bolt from Home Depot, but that's not biggie. So we went and go ahead and separated the wires. So the ground is sitting right there. The power wire, we just did the same thing with the power for the amp. We just ran it through this plastic liner right here. Goes up there and it goes to here. We have plenty of wiggle room left to mess around with the power. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to check to see the fuse, to see which one is the hot side and which one's the ground. So we're going to do that real quick. Sorry, there's a bus. That's why it was pretty loud. I was like, I'm not sure if y'all can hear this, but we'll use this old-fashioned one that I have. My dad has. It's old but trusty. So, and then, all right, so we're just about ready to put in the fuse tap. So if we look in a map right here, you can see that the 10A is, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it is that little 10 right there. So we will go ahead and pull that out real quick. And perfect timing, my buddy just arrived. Yeah. All right, so we'll go to do that real quick and we'll just hope for the best of luck. If not, if it blows a fuse, we can always buy new ones. So we'll go ahead and get that done real quick and yeah. All right, y'all, so we are at a different location, but still the same thing that we're doing. A couple buddies here to help me out. So we're just chilling. Next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna find a fuse, which I already did, to tap into. If we look at the map back here and take out this fuse. So I tapped into this fuse right here, which is a 20A. The one on the left is OEM, and then I have another one on the right for my LOC. And what that basically does, it controls the sunroof. So obviously when it's turned off, when you have the keys off, when the battery's connected, it's not gonna turn on, it's not gonna go down. So that's a pretty good fuse to tap into, because it'll only turn on once the ignition is switched on. So if you don't have a sunroof, then you can try some other fuses. You just have to make sure they match in numbers. So we'll go ahead and tap that in with the power wire. So we're gonna cut a bit and strip a bit of the wire so we can connect it into here, and then we're gonna crimp it, and that should be all set for the power one. So, all right, y'all, so we have the power wire connected to the LOC, crimped on to the fuse tap. So we are gonna plug that fuse in, and next up is gonna be the ground. So we're gonna plug that in into that space over there, right here. And we'll move on to the ground real quick. We got the ground cable connected. What we did essentially is we had to take another ring terminal built for this size, crimp it down, and connect it to the LOC. And then if you have the factory subwoofer, you're gonna go to the back, remove the driver's back passenger seat, and you'll have access to this bolt right here, which is a subwoofer mount bolt. So just sand it down a bit, and for this bolt, for the top of it, you won't need to sand it down. That looks like bare metal. So yeah, once you get that sanded down a bit, you can screw it back on, and that will be it for back here. So we got the ground and the power connected for the LOC, so we can start puzzling the pieces together. What I'm going to do now is just connect the RCA cables from the LOC to the amp, and after that we'll get to the factory wire. So that's a whole nother level that I need to show y'all about, but we'll get that soon. I'll just connect these real quick and we should be all good on this part. Hello y'all, I forgot to mention the remote start cable. So what that is essentially, trying to hold the seat up so I can show y'all. So the LC2i Pro. So the LC2i Pro, as you can see right here, it has remote out, remote in, 12 volt and ground. That remote out, you're gonna grab your remote wire that came with the amp wiring kit. So it's gonna be a separate one, a smaller gauge, and you're gonna connect that to the remote out. And that is going to lead over here to the amp. And where you're gonna plug that remote wire in is right here where it says remote in. I know it seems kind of weird that you have two big wires right here and then this small wire, but that's essentially it, the last step that I needed. That's why the amp wasn't powering on, because it didn't have a signal to turn on. But after that, yeah, so that's pretty much it, the setup. So yeah, now we're gonna tap into the factory wiring for the subwoofer. So we got the same orientation that we're going on with the amp. The blue is the positive and the white is the negative. So what I read in the forums, the reds are negatives, the grays are positives. So we'll go ahead and tap into these where I have it spliced already, and we will connect these real quick. All right, y'all, so we tapped into the first set of the factory positive and negative. So that wire is gonna run over here into the LOC. So we have this thing right here. We're just gonna cut and strip the wire to make it enter right here, and then we're gonna screw it in here. So we're gonna do that real quick, and completely forgot to record this, but we got the LOC speaker inputs from the speaker wire from the factory one connected to here. Then we connect the RCA cables, make sure it's connected to the base output, not the main output. And I got a shorter one because it's easier. So the inputs go into there, and then you're just gonna do the same thing over here to power the sub. So these have positive and negative terminals. Are gonna come connect back here to this. And again, positive is copper, black, negative is clear. Honestly, that's pretty much it for wiring that I can think of. Unless I'm really missing something, I think that is it. So
Looking good.
yeah.
It's gonna be great.
All right, y'all, let's get the cleaning. All right, so the subwoofer didn't start here because of the issue we went over a few clips ago where we forgot the remote out wire for the LOC and amp. So after we got that done, the sub started hitting. So we'll go back into the future and show y'all how the subwoofer sounds. Alrighty, y'all, so I stopped on not my so local shell, but the sub install is complete. The reason the sub wasn't, or the amp wasn't turning on, because I forgot to put a remote out wire that connects to the remote in for the amp. As soon as we got that connection done, the sub started hitting and it started playing. So sub amp, line output converter, everything's good. I've still gotta mess with the gains a little bit. I put it a little bit low because I know we don't really want to put it that high. I know the subwoofer is rated for 600 watts and the amp is 750 watts, but I'm still trying to keep it low. It still hits. Mitsubishi, I think, put deadening material inside of this hatch. I'll give y'all a quick glance into here. So we'll turn on this and then we'll play a good bass song. Get the whole thing shaking, man. Why not work? Because it gotta be like that. We got both subs playing right now. I still gotta experiment with it a little bit. Again, I still gotta mess with the gain a bit, because sometimes it goes into projection mode on the lower frequencies, so I gotta adjust the gain on the amp, maybe adjust the bass output on the line output converter. But other than that, that's pretty much it, man. So got a successful sub install. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. But that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys found this informative. If you have any questions, just let me know. And yeah, make sure you do your research. Do your research before buying a sub, okay? All right, we'll see you on the next one. We'll keep on jamming.